I'll text Joe.
All right. Welcome to my first Theory and Practice podcast. My name is Matt Renwick. I am an elementary principal in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. And the whole purpose of tonight is just to highlight some great practice that other principals and administrators are doing in Wisconsin and New Jersey, and also talk about relevant articles and studies and publications that are coming out that I think all school leaders should be aware of. So with that, I'm going to introduce two of our three members that are here, and I think Joe will be here anytime.
I'll text Joe.
All right.
Welcome to
my first Theory and Practice podcast. My name is Matt Renwick. I am an elementary principal in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. And the purpose of tonight is just to highlight some great practice that and administrators are doing. So what's going on in Wisconsin and New Jersey?
Did you hear that?
And also talk about
You just keep repeating yourself.
Wait, do you have the Hangout? Do you have the Hangout that people are watching open on another screen?
Let me check. With that, so
I shut mine off.
Oh, now he's out. That's okay.
We should just show everyone our sweatshirt and be like, "This is why we're here."
Matching.
We're besties. Okay. We have a.
All right. Here's what's really sad is that we are not in charge of this podcast, but we're still live and people
we're
can
here
see us right now. So hey, everybody.
Hi.
Whoever's
Hi,
watching.
my name is Tony.
I have no idea.
But it is cool, Jess. We could take a moment to just comment on the fashion choices that we've made today.
So we're wearing an NAESP sweatshirt that was given to us. Hey, Joe.
Oh, wait, the other one.
Hey,
the other one's coming.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Joe, we're having a little snafu here.
We lost Matt. Oh, there's Matt.
Okay, so what's with the hats?
What?
And the matching sweatshirt.
We get the hats. Jess and I have the same shirt on.
Yeah, we have the same sweatshirt on. Where's yours?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
I don't have one clearly, but hey, Matt, how you doing today? It's a pleasure to be with you.
Hold on, Joe. Joe, look at the hat.
I see. Go Crickets. There you go. Now we're talking. You're allowed to stay now, Jess.
Okay, thanks. All right.
How do you get one of those?
Hey, I know a guy. Hey,
everyone.
I know a guy, Matt. I can take care of you.
All right.
I'm sorry I'm late. We came back from Wisconsin Dells today. We had the kids at the water park, and I got water in my ears, which is really the best way to prepare for any time with Tony.
So we're still
You're so
live.
mean and hurtful.
Tony
We're
and
still
I
live.
were having a
great.
fashion show during the live. This just shows
Intermission. It was an
we
intermission.
all need to learn how to use new tools, so it's okay.
Yeah, good.
It's all
Good.
great.
Well, thanks, Joe, for coming. Thank you all for being here tonight. Our time is precious when we're not at school, or seems like we're always at school. But I appreciate you taking the time to do that. You are.
I
am at school.
I'm at home, but I live across the street, so it's the same thing.
Same thing. Like the annex of school.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
if you just want to introduce yourselves, we'll start with Jessica, then Joe, then Tony. Your handles, and your name, your position, your handles, Twitter handles, and what you're currently reading right now.
All
Start
right.
with Jessica.
I'm Jessica Johnson. I'm an elementary principal in Juneau, Wisconsin. This is my 7th year as a principal. My Twitter handle is Principal J, and my blog is principaljay.net, easy to remember. And I am currently reading Student-Centered Coaching by Diane Sweeney, which we've been discussing on the EduCoach chat on Wednesday nights. Sorry, I was just laughing at Tony, who's looking lost right now. He's looking for a book.
No, I have the book. I have the book.
I know he's looking for a book right now. Sorry.
That's very funny.
I have my book. Right
You
here.
can't be
Right
reading your own book.
Oh.
You never even read that.
Why?
You haven't read it yet.
Okay,
I didn't.
I think Matt wanted this to be a serious podcast.
I have 2 copies of it, one for home and one for work.
I am just glad you guys showed up.
Okay, sorry. Go.
Go ahead.
All right, go ahead, Joel.
Your turn, Joe. It's your turn. Go.
No, it's not. You're up next.
No, you.
I'll
He
let-
said Jessica, Joe, and Tony.
Oh, sorry about that. All right, yeah. So my name is Joe Sanfelippo. I am the superintendent in Fall Creek, Wisconsin. Go Crickets.
Go Crickets.
My Twitter handle is at Joe Sanfelippo FC, and I just started reading Reinventing Culture.
Okay, so my name is Tony Sinanis, and I'm the lead learner at Canning Elementary School in Jericho, New York. And my handle is at Tony Sinanis, TonySinanis on Twitter. And my blog is leadingmotivatedlearners.blogspot.com, I think. And I am currently reading a book about case studies, as I am in the midst of developing one as part of my dissertation. It's written by Yin. I don't remember Yin's first name, but that is what I'm currently reading. But in my free time, I like to read this book, The Power of Branding by Joe Sanfelippo and Tony Sinanis.
I found like 5 spelling errors in there.
That's because I was your
Don't worry
spell
about it.
checker.
Oh, bad choice of editor.
Yeah, tell me about what she did it all on her
Yep.
phone.
Well, I'll say. My name is Matt Renwick. Position is elementary principal. I am also currently reading The Power of Branding. Seems like I have about 6 books going at any one time, but that is one of them.
Oh,
And so far so good. I'm reading on my iPad. I'm reading the ebook version of it. But I did actually buy it for my superintendent.
Tell us how that looks.
Hey, good. Send it, and hey, if
Awesome.
you get
Nice move.
send them our way. We'll make sure we get everybody up and running.
That sounds good. Celebrations, but with my staff, we always start with a celebration. So I think Joe and Tony, you've got 2 excellent ones. Power of Branding, which Tony is reading right now. Very good.
Yes.
And Principal Professional Development. Tell us more about that book.
So that book is going to be coming out in a few weeks, at some point in the middle of February, I think. Joe, do you have the exact date on when that book is coming out?
Mid-February.
No, okay. But mid-February. It's also part of the Connected Educator series, the Corwin Connected Educator series, and the text really focuses on professional development in the 21st century, in the digital sort of age, and what resources and tools people can access to help personalize their learning, take control of their learning, and really make it relevant and current to not only their context, but for themselves. Is Principal PD, I think, very easily can be broadened and cover pretty much any educator and how they can control their professional development. Joe, would you agree?
Yeah, what we wanted to do with the book was just really put the emphasis on the continuous learner. And if we're leading learning organizations, we need to really lead the learning in those organizations. And so the book isn't really as much about like there's some philosophical bent to it and why and that kind of thing, but to give you some real practical application of how to do it so it doesn't feel like it's one more thing. That's essentially what we hoped when it came from the book. We just want to make sure that it wasn't adding on to an already full plate of things that administrators have on their plate as it is. So how can you work your own professional development within the context of either your day or after or whatever the case may be, but in social spaces that you currently already live, so it doesn't feel like it's one more spot.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to read that one.
You did read it.
Really? Did I?
Yeah, you wrote a review for it. Thanks, we appreciate that.
You're making that up. I did not.
Just kidding.
I know I read a lot, but
You had her almost there.
I know.
I did.
Gosh, I thought I read his book. Wow.
That was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. I'm sorry, Jess. I had to, though, right?
It's okay.
So what are your favorite, for all 3 of you? I mean, the subtitle is Leading Learning in the Digital Age. So I imagine you talk about personal learning networks and communities of practice. What are your favorite forums for learning as an administrator?
I think Voxer has easily become my favorite, and I just talk over Tony. It's his
Which is
favorite
the story
tool.
of my
I'll just
life.
talk for him. Tony's favorite is Boxer.
Yes, it is. It definitely has pushed the conversation a lot further than 140 characters can. Although Twitter is a go-to every day as well,
Yeah.
for me
Well,
at
you
least.
need. I always talk about Twitter as like the gateway tool because you need to be there first in order to find all of the other tools. Can't connect on Voxer with people unless you've already found them on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. I would totally agree. I think those are the two go-tos for me. Um, Having said that,
Yeah.
I also use Zite every day as well, and that just gives me a couple of articles to start my day with, or to or end the day with, and be able to push some of that information out. But when it comes in terms of professional development and growth, I don't think I don't think I utilize tools more than Twitter and Voxer on a regular basis. And the fact that we can connect and talk and move forward with a group of people having similar, struggles or celebrations is really an important thing.
I agree. Google Plus communities. I mean, obviously we're in one right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mhm.
how much do you tap into that?
Well, we wrote about that, Matt, in the book. We touched on Google Plus communities, and I know one of the people that we've learned a lot about Google Plus communities from is Melinda Miller, who is a principal extraordinaire in Missouri, and so that definitely is part of our learning as well, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we set it up after talking to Melinda and also Lexi Ballwig, who's from Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, as well, talking about like how you can get your staff connected in that regard. And one of the things that we're trying to do in Fall Creek is make sure that all of the information is in the community where they can get to and push information to that space. We'd really like it to become more robust in the area of it's not just our contributions, but a group contribution. And I think we're not at a place where I feel like that's happening yet, but I think it's the familiarity piece of it. Is just is adding stuff out to Twitter, sending stuff to Twitter just seems like second nature at this point. Google Plus seems like it's just one more thing, but it's just it's just something that comes with time, I'm sure.
I like the communities that you can create, like the private communities, public, whatever. It's kind of like it becomes more than just a PLN. It's like a community of practice. So right now I'm leading a book study on The Courage to Teach by Parker Palmer.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's cool because you can post videos, links. I'm running a grad course through it. I mean, what other possibilities do you see with using that?
Well, just different groups. I know there's one for different chats. To continue the conversation so that it's just not just on Twitter. You can have way more in there. But I'm the same way that I don't check Google Plus frequently. So every once in a while I'll look at it, or when Matt tells me he added something to a group that I'm in, I'll look. But it's not part of my daily habit. So I know I'm missing out on things there.
Well, next celebration is just Tony and Jessica's Distinguished Principal Award of the Year. Congrats.
Thank
Thank you.
How did you become a distinguished principal?
There was one application.
We'll just go with that.
All right.
Leave it at that.
Hey, I'll throw a dig, but at the same time, you're not going to find two more deserving people than the two that received the award this year. In all sincerity, and I hope they both know that. That's how I feel, just because they are they're as unique as it could possibly find in the principalship. They're amazing. So, very well deserved, but I will still slam them every time I talk to them. And I promise that.
This is recorded, right? So we can go back and hear those nice words afterwards.
It happened. I've known you for a year.
I'm going to replay that for you, Joe.
Just that
over
part,
and over
just
again.
Yes.
Right.
So
right.
In all seriousness, Matt, I think it's different in each state. I think Jessica, if I'm not mistaken, was nominated by her superintendent, where I was nominated by a colleague in New York State. Peter DeWitt actually nominated me for the honor, and then there was he's great. He's such an amazing part of my PLN, and I've learned so much from him. And he actually he's the reason Joe and I even wrote books, because he pulled us into the Connected Educator series for Corwin. It
There
was
you
his
go.
kind of brainchild there. So that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah, there you go. You see, yeah, that's him. He is reinventing the wheel for real. So he nominated me, and then there was a whole process, application process, and then I don't know. I certainly don't feel deserving to win in the state of New York, as there are some really amazing administrators here who are dealing with some really difficult times in the current landscape of public education. When we look at things like educator effectiveness and high stakes testings and Common Core and that kind of stuff. But I was honored to represent our state, so it's pretty cool.
Nice, very nice. Well, that leads into the 3 articles, and what I do on Theory and Practice is I summarize 5 weekly articles, try to provide some kind of an analysis. And so for tonight's topic about Principal PD, I picked 3 that could fit. The first one is The Power of Digital Story. It's by Bob Dylan on Edutopia. And I liked it because it fit well within Joe and Tony's book. I think the quote that I noticed the most is that story inspires story. Story inspires story. I mean, can you speak to that? I mean, for all 3 of you, how do you see that playing out in your own school or your district?
Joe could tell us so much
Go
about
ahead,
the district level, because he does so much work across the entire district.
You go ahead, Tony, because I'll jump in. But
I think really the whole idea of telling your story, at least from our vantage point, is about creating an identity and one that people can associate with and people can take pride in. And so there are so many amazing things that are happening in our schools, whether it's the kids who are doing great stuff, or the staff who are being innovative and trying different things, or the connections with our community that's helping enhance and sort of inspire us in our craft. And so we have all this at our fingertips, right? It's something we can easily access, and by sharing that, we're impacting not only the internal part of the community within the walls of the school, but we're flattening the walls of the school and really creating this high level of transparency, which really helps lead us to build social capital, and something Joe has taught me a lot about, and also this idea of trust with the community. And those are things that are key when you're trying to be transformational in your leadership, right? So that's definitely something that we've thought a lot about.
Mm-hmm. What's the tool that you like the most, Tony, for your school?
I would say at this point it's Instagram, because it goes Instagram, Twitter, Facebook with one click of a button. So, but Twitter is probably where I spend most of my time, but I love Instagram because of the ease. So.
Mm-hmm.
I like to create videos in using iMovie, and it takes a bit more time, but putting things together and then to YouTube and then to our Facebook and all of that. When I read this, I didn't. First of all, I heard Joe in my head talking about telling your story and never give up an opportunity to say something good about your school. But I also just thought about the power of story in itself, not digital story, but teachers telling a story of a lesson that went well and a tool that they used in the classroom, or students sharing their learning that way and sharing it with other students, and just how powerful stories can be, not just focusing on tech tools there, but just telling stories have great power in what we do. And one example is we were having grade level PLC meetings talking about intervention with our struggling kids, and I know whenever you start talking about struggling kids, all of those other factors come up, troubled home life, they didn't have enough to eat, or this happened, and all of those excuses get out there, and it's very easy to get stuck on them. But I asked teachers to think of a student last year and to tell a story of somebody who became successful. So we started with that before getting to, okay, now who's struggling?
Mm-hmm. That's a cool idea.
One of the biggest things about storytelling for me is that storytellers essentially rule the world. People have been telling stories for thousands and thousands of years, and a lot of times we tell stories before we write them. If you think about, like, you go back for a reunion, or you go back and talk to people that you used to hang out with, it's always about the stories, and it's about, like, instead of like the open, jump shot from the wing to win a game, it was like over the head between three people on your knees, over, that kind of thing. These stories just get magnified and they keep getting told over and over again. But if you go to a place, if you go anywhere in the world and you see where people are gathered, they are gathered around the storyteller, almost unequivocally. And so if you are that storyteller for your school, people will gravitate to that area. If your kids are storytellers for your school, people will gravitate towards that area. As long as we're telling that story, and the person that's not telling the story about our school is the guy that didn't get the second chicken sandwich when he was in 3rd grade, right? And he's still mad about it. Now we got a problem if we're letting that individual dictate what we do when it comes to telling the story, kids.
Can I just tell you that Joe used the example of the chicken sandwich in a session he led on Wednesday?
I didn't know she was
that chicken sandwich.
I didn't know she was listening. She showed up late.
I was early.
She was
yeah, but
and she was busy.
Joe left early to our session, Jessica, so it's fair.
But she was busy. She was busy reading your articles, Matt.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's very true. Or our book that she reviewed.
Oh, Lordy.
What you talk about is, it reminds me a lot. We had Rick Wormley come to our district early this year, and he said the same thing, that people are story seekers and pattern finders, and so what you say just makes a lot of sense. And I like too the article with Dylan. He gives some specific strategies. So create space for listening, persuade with the head and heart, lead with the narrative, amplify with images, nurture the process, understand the tools, and it just sounds like you all do that so well.
It really is so much about the narrative, Matt, and that's so important. And when we give it voice, and that voice shouldn't be one-dimensional, it should really be pretty comprehensive, and that's why students need to be storytellers, and staff members need to be storytellers, and the community needs to be part of that story as well, because it is so rich, it's so layered, it's so complex, and one voice wouldn't do it justice, right? And so that piece is really important. And again, that all comes back to culture and relationships.
Yeah, it builds on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the things that Tony talks a lot about, both in the book, but just in general, is the whole piece of brand promise and brand experience. So if you're out there, touting what's going on within the context of your school, and that's not what's going on in the context of your school, first of all, the people in your building are going to be like, what? And then they start telling the wrong story. And then then that momentum has an incredible negative impact on what you're doing.
Yeah, big time. It makes so much sense, and it's so easy to do it. It's free and it's out there, and we use Twitter, and one thing we've done which has helped is embed our Twitter feed into our webpage, so that even if you're not following Twitter, you can still follow our story. And we even had a family come from Alaska, wanted to enroll in Rapids, and wanted to come to our school because they thought our webpage was so cool. And they were supposed to go to another school, but because of our web presence, we weren't doing anything special, but we had that presence that really sold them on the school. So it does make a difference. Go ahead.
Sorry. What I was going to say, Matt, is that I just gave a tour to a family, and the one thing they said to me was the reason they came there is because they saw our blog and they saw our video updates and all that stuff. So that digital footprint is a very important thing.
And Tony does a great job with his weekly videos where he brings kids in and asks them what's happening. They're always funny.
They are funny. They keep me cracking up.
You use TouchCast, Tony, for that?
TouchCast, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the next article is just about it goes back to Principal PD, but I thought it was cool that this education professor went back to high school, was a student for 2 days, and it just changed my thinking, because I've always said technology is a tool, and I've realized it's not. But he said that he found that a new teaching and learning paradigm had to be embraced, and that technology was no longer a tool but a context for living and engaging in the world around them. and that it's not simply for information but for transformation. Um, and I happen to agree with that. I say it's more than just a tool. And first of all, have you ever tried this? Have you ever been the student in your classroom in your school? Is that something you've done? Well, if so, what was it like?
I haven't, but I can just say, like, ever having been in a meeting or a training where they say to close your devices, I'm like, what? Like, I need Evernote. That's how I take my notes, and then I gotta tweet it out. Like, if you say I can't use my technology, then I'm gonna be the ADHD child who's completely obnoxious and you want to send in the hallway.
I actually followed a fifth grader around for an entire day. I think it was 2 years ago, and I tried to see school through his eyes, and it was pretty interesting. In some instances, pretty cool. In some instances, a little sad because there were things we needed to do better. But it was definitely enlightening.
Yeah, I think I haven't gone and gone with one student throughout the whole course of the day, but we take it out of chunks and try to see a couple hours in a row. That's kind of a fun thing to do. But I think as Tony was saying, sometimes you just gotta say, oh, geez, what's going on here? But it really kind of brings up the whole conversation about student voice and teacher talk time versus student talk time. And I don't think you really know or get a feel for that if you're walking through and doing your observations or even on a formal evaluation. But just sit in there and take that piece of it once in a while. That is really enlightening.
So we've got a little back channel going just for us on Voxer, and Kurt Reese just said, have a kid teach you a video game, humbling. And I do have to say how many times I've tried to join in on Minecraft with my son, and like I don't know what to do, and he gets all mad at me. I'm like, I don't know. Sorry.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I would think just the time on task and just what is it they're doing and the amount of seat time. It'd be interesting for teachers, I think, to take that experiment too, is to be a student in their own school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's nice that we do these things and we talk about principal PD and that we need to be learners, but what do we neglect in the process when we're trying to be constant learners and colleagues alongside our staff? I mean, for me, I'm just thinking tomorrow we're hosting a spotlight school and we're having another school come in and view our classrooms, but I'm thinking about attendance, discipline, just supervision. How do we make time for that? How do we be smarter about our time? And that's a struggle for me, I know. What's
We hire
worked for
an
you?
assistant principal.
Gone.
Or we know of a principal who I believe is listening right now who has the support of his superintendent in allowing him to hire a sub for a teacher who can then help him with some of that administrative stuff, like maybe, I guess, a certified administrator, but not actually administrator at this point. And so that
Really?
teacher is able to help him with some of those administrative duties, and that's great. That's like a really powerful idea. If you have one person, once a week who can kind of pick up on the paperwork or the emails or whatever, that would be a huge a huge shift there.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, when on the days that I'm out, I've got really good staff that usually either my counselor or a psychologist will step in, if it's something significant that needs to be addressed right away during the day. I don't have an AP or that sub.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think you just have to. I know that everything kind of comes at you about 1,000 miles an hour, but I think we really owe it to ourselves to find a way to continue the learning process. If we're going to lead in that process in schools, I think it reminds me of a graphic, and I'm tweeting it out right now. That are we too busy to improve, or are we just going to go through the management and look back like 5 years later and think, did I really get anything done? So if you're in a building, if you're an administrator in a building, you need to be able to manage things, obviously, but also to be the leader in that building too. So, and there are tasks that you have to do both. There are times that you do have to manage, and then there are times that you do have to lead. But the balance in doing that is something that you'll always chase, but it's kind of a fun chase if you keep rolling.
True.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah, one thing I've stopped doing is feeling bad about going to a conference. I mean, I limit my conferences. I do about 2 a year, but when I go, I go.
Yep.
I've stopped feeling guilty about it because it's necessary. So, and speaking of conference, this is the last article interview. This was in District Administration in December. Scott McLeod, who I think we all know, interviewed about, it's called Letting Learning Technology Flourish in Schools, which is an interview with Scott. He is a professor out of Iowa. He's a founding director of Castle, and just noted that schools have to adapt to an economy that's knowledge-based. And there are obstacles, just like we talked about, standardized testing, knowledge about digital tools. And he really spoke about getting everyone on board, not just community members, or not just families, but also community members, policymakers, board members. Have you had any success with this, where you've been able to bring in the people who actually make the decisions for schools? What's that been like?
Well, before we went one-to-one with iPads, we purchased carts of iPads to start trying them out. And, you know, I had a couple of teachers who were really excited to start using them. And then in some of the teachers' rooms that were a little bit more hesitant, I asked, like, hey, can I come use your class as guinea pigs? And would try some things out with them so that they would get excited about it. But then as teachers started really using the technology and wanting more and more, we would ask them to come and present at a board meeting so that the board members could see what was happening, and make videos to share, you know, of the kids talking about using the iPads and what they're doing with them and showing videos of it before we then went to the one-to-one initiative. And I feel like we have their full support.
So you actually had the kids come into the board meeting?
We didn't, because elementary kids just can't stay up that late, or I wouldn't say they should. So we made videos, like I recorded them talking, I recorded them showing things, and then I edited it together so that it was like they were at the board meeting.
Mm-hmm. That's neat.
Yeah, I think that there's this the whole concept is trying to get more people involved in the process and making them feel like they're you know, part of something bigger than themselves. And I think in big initiatives like that, I think sometimes you can feel like a dog that's just chasing its tail around in a circle. You know, you just keep going and going and going. And when you get a chance to kind of get in front of a bunch of people, you want to do the best you can, but you also want to make sure that the people that are coming in and have the expertise aren't just putting their foot in their mouth and trying to, and kind of derailing the information that's going on. And that's important, right? Because you want to make sure that when the people that you're bringing to have this conversation have some sense of knowledge about where they're going to go. It's not like, I mean, somebody asked me to come in and talk about going to Nigeria. I haven't been there. I have no idea. I have no experience there. So when you get people to come in and talk about these things, make sure that you do a good job on the front end of that and prep them for what's going on. So not only the implementation is good, but then there's this sense of unity moving forward and knowledge base that they have to have.
That is pretty impressive and comprehensive, Matt. But what I can say is that I'm fortunate enough to work in a district where the superintendent and the Board of Education and many of my colleagues understand that kids come first. And you know, we have the luxury of being in an amazing community where test scores end up okay no matter what, because our kids are bright, our families are supportive, they're engaged, but we also work for people who understand that there's a lot more than test scores. And you know, this year we integrated, for example, like Caniac Genius Hour, and that's, you know, something that's kind of taken off school-wide. And if I worked for a different kind of superintendent, he might have come in and said, you know what, take that hour back and use it for test prep, or, you know, take that hour back and use it to make sure you're doing Common Core, you know, whatever. But he hasn't. He sees the power in it, and he values it as he's visited during those times. And so that's pretty cool to work in a community that values that type of learning.
Well, what's funny is that, you know, you mentioned replace, you know, you don't want to replace that with Common Core, direct instruction, or test prep, where, you know, the things that you're doing directly affect tests in a positive way. And when we're as certain articles have come out, you know, we teach to the test, and we actually teach poorer because of that. So it's really a win-win. It's just indirect, which is hard for people to connect. But I think when you're telling your story online, I think that's the way to do it.
Agreed.
So, that's all I've got. Thank you for joining me tonight.
I hope you don't regret having us on.
Hey,
No,
Matt,
not at
thanks
all.
for having us. I'm really feeling like what with the sweatshirts. Seriously, I mean, seriously with the sweatshirts. Like,
You
what
didn't
is
get
this?
the memo.
Oh my God, it's like
sent it out.
Team Hoodie just showed up in Wisconsin or something like that. What in the world? Would you stop moving around? My goodness. I mean, seriously. We're trying to get stuff done here, and here you are flying around your house like it's nothing. Nobody wants to see that.
I'm sorry.
You're not a principal.
Yeah, we're gonna talk when
You're
this
not
is
an administrator. You're seeing
not
a different side, much more relaxed side, which is awesome. So I highly recommend.
I'm a lead learner, that's why.
That's right.
Is that what you are?
I highly recommend reading Joe and Tony's book, The Power of Branding. I've used a few of those elements already in what we've been doing, developing hashtags, getting our social media story out. Congrats to Jessica and Tony on their Distinguished Principal Award. Very deserved. And looking forward to reading Principal PD.
Yeah.
And look for just
Thanks.
another.
You're going to give us a copy of that, right, boys?
We gave you a copy.
Yes.
You said we sent you a copy. You read this.
Yes, you reviewed the manuscript. Hello.
I told you. See?
Matt will send you a copy, no worries.
Matt, we'll give you a copy. As soon as it comes out, we'll send you a copy, all right? We'll charge it to Jessica.
I'm sure you will.
I'll even remember that I read it, too.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. That's what I'm talking about right there. You know it.
All right. Well, take care. Tony, I know you got a snowstorm coming, so I know you got some prep to do, and have a great week.
We're getting ready. Thank you.
Like 2 inches, so it'll be fine.
No, it's supposed to be like 3 feet.
3 feet.
That's what they said.
3 feet. Okay, we'll talk.
3 feet.
All right, you guys have a great night. Thanks for having us on. It was great talking about you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.